Most developers fail long before they even write their first lines of code. They start a journey in the one place that guarantees they'll never finish their first game. There is this very common trap in game development that's called tutorial hell. And personally, I wasted years in tutorial hell. I was thinking I was getting better every day, that I was productive, like following these tutorials. But in reality, I couldn't write a single line of code and I was just wasting time. And it was only after I implemented the struggle, build, repeat framework that I finally released my first games. And let me tell you, it's the only way you're going to make progress. That's actually by following this struggle, build, repeat framework. So right now, I'm going to walk you through the entire indie game development roadmap, where I'll tell you what you should do right now to start learning the real way, and when you should start finishing your first game, and why it should be your priority right now. The first thing I just want to mention is that on this entire journey, you should think that struggle, it doesn't mean bad. Struggle is actually when you are learning. So you're used to right now to just watch tutorials. Struggle is just an indicator that your brain is actually rewiring itself to actually implement and understand the things we're doing. This is going to be extremely important to follow this struggle, build, repeat framework and to actually finish your first game. So let's walk through every single step of the journey to finishing your first game. Starting with learning the basics. This is if you are a complete beginner. What I recommend is that you watch a 2 to 5 hour introduction video to your game engine of your choice. Also, I have a full game engine selection guide inside of Smartly. It's the first link in the description if you want to check it out. And this is not to like understand everything, to like understand code. If you are a complete beginner, you just need to install the game engine, recognize yourself with like the engine, the development process, and just get everything set up. Just recognize like where the buttons are inside the game engine, recognize like the syntax of the coding language, all these like very basic things that doesn't require like a lot of understanding. You just need to like recognize it. Basically, that's the only thing we need to do while watching it. And while like you're coding like basic things in the introduction video, you're probably going to think that, well, I'm learning, I don't need to like follow the struggle, build, whatever framework. You might think that because that's the trap a lot of people fall into. They think that tutorials is actually productive. They're actually learning new things while watching the tutorials, but that's actually the trap that passive learning puts you in. When you're doing passive learning, like watching this video, the only thing you're going to do is just recognize the things, but you'll never actually understand them because you aren't struggling with the thing. You're going to forget it the next day. You aren't going to be able to apply it if you don't struggle and build and experiment around the things that you're doing right now. So that's going to be the next step that I want you to be in. After you watch the introduction video, preferably like shortly after, because it's like at the front of your brain and it's like just before you're going to forget it, preferably right after that, try to recreate the things or like only a few lines of code that you did in the introduction video. Try to recreate it, try to write the lines of code in a new project and then just have it there. Just make sure it has no errors. That is just a few lines of code that you remember. Even if it's very small, just try to remember something. You don't need to like even know what it does, but just write some lines of code that you can remember from the video. Or if you like have watched tutorials before, you can do the same thing. Just write some lines that you remember. The goal here is just to like have something that we can play around it and experiment and like build upon in the next step. It doesn't need to be advanced. Just write down a few lines of code that you can remember. And I know like past me, if I were to like show this video to past me, I'd say I literally can't do anything. And to that I'll say, then go on Google, search for like a simple mechanic and then just paste it in. That's the only way you're going to learn, is that you have this line of code and you paste it in and you try to experiment, tweak and break things around that. So now whatever which one of these three paths you took, you should have like a few lines of code in your game engine or your IDE that you can just tweak, break and do things with. So that's what I want to do. Just spend like an hour not searching for anything on AI, Google, tutorials. Just experiment alone. Only do that. It can be inside a game engine. It can be inside of code. Just change as many things as possible. Change the values, the parameters. Try to like write new lines of code with like the IDE as your help. Just experiment, do new things. Just act like this is going to be an oral exam, and you just want to like show the examinator like everything that you can do. Just try to like do as many things as possible. Basically just do things. That's how you're actually going to learn. Struggle with the things, do things, just try new things. But obviously we need to get some new information. We can't just like guess our way through learning everything. So what I'm going to say to that is that yes, you're going to experiment for like maybe 1 hour. then you can try to expand on it and make new features in that. For this, I still want you to struggle for like 10-20 minutes, try to expand on it yourself, but most likely you aren't going to be able to do it. So then you can go on Google and you can search for like the very specific thing that you're going to do. So for example, if you had a simple jumping mechanic, that's an example I use a lot because I think it's a good beginner experiment. If you have a jumping mechanic in your ID right now and you want to expand on it and maybe detect when the player is standing on the ground, only search for like the very specific thing at a time. So you can try to break it down. What's the first thing you need to detect if the player is on the ground? Well, you need to detect collision. So you might like try to guess your way through finding the collision. If you spend like 10-20 minutes trying to guess how to do it, but you still can't figure it out, only search for that one very specific thing. Don't search for like the entire thing you're trying to do. Only search for the very specific thing, the one line of code that you should implement. Because that's how you're actually going to remember things and use the knowledge that you already have to like reinforce it in your brain. So in this example, for example, that would be to search for how to detect collision in Unity and then 2D, 3D. So for this specific example where you want to detect collision, the only thing you should search for is not how to detect collision in the jumping system in Unity. Not search for that. What you should search for is how to detect collision in Unity or your game engine, whatever it might be. That's the one specific thing you should search for. And if you just do one specific thing at a time, it might go very slow, it might feel very boring, it might feel like you're not making much progress. But I'm telling you, the progress and the things you're actually going to implement is going to sit so much tighter in your brain. And the only way you're actually going to understand things and remember them are if you just do it very slowly, you struggle with the things, and you just spend a lot of time on very small things. That's the only way you're going to learn the basics. You need to remember that everything we do right now is just the foundation. Everything you're doing right now, like getting the collision input, like jumping, moving the player, very basic things like this that you want to like struggle with and do this framework with. These are going to be pillars and the foundation of your like scripting. These are things that you're going to use a million different times. So it's critical that you fully understand how they work so that you can actually use it in the future. You don't need to spend like 20 minutes on finding like every line of code in the future when you are more advanced. But for figuring out the foundation of scripting, like these very important things, that's like very basic, it's critical that you understand them fully and you can actually be able to use them very well and understand them very well. And the only way to do that is to spend a lot of time on it and Google the specific thing and just move very slowly, basically. Struggle with the thing, move very slowly. I also want to say, if you want the entire process laid out step by step for you, so you know exactly what you're going to do every single day of the week, where I'll also go much more into detail about everything, like getting game ideas, when to plan your first prototype, like every single mistake that you can possibly do, then you can check out Smart Indie with the first link in the description, where I guarantee that you'll release your first game within only 60 days. With that being said, after you made a few experiments and you've like learned the basics, you've moved very slowly, you've implemented this struggle that we talked about, what we can now do is that we can make our first prototypes. So these prototypes are going to be just small systems of a game, things that we can actually use in the future, preferably. A prototype, for example, that you can make if you like are just finished with experimenting and you've learned the basics and you feel like you're ready for it. The first prototype you can make is maybe going to be like a bit more advanced. Maybe like a store system, for example, can be like very basic, it can be more advanced, whatever you think you can do with the store system. Just make a store system, for example. You can make like a reusable player system where you have like the movement that connects to the stamina, that connects to the health. You can make this system and just make sure it's very modular so you can expand on it in the future. Try to make that connect the different systems together. So you basically just have one player system that you can preferably use in your future projects, and preferably like your first game. And this is something that's really useful for even myself. I do this all the time in between my games, and this is where I learn so much. It's where I make these mechanics that I can use in my future projects. Like for example, something I did recently was that I made a store system, and I made this in a way that I could reuse it in the future. So when I made my next game after that, I just reused the store system in that game, and I saved so much time, and I can even use it in the future for new projects because it's like a system that I made and I can reuse it for the future. like the scripts are already there and it works, and I can add the upgrades and like whatever I need because it's very like modular and like expandable and changeable. And also I learn a lot from it because I can just fully focus on scripting the mechanics, making them very like reusable, changeable, expandable, instead of focusing on all these other things that comes with actually releasing a game. I can just fully focus on improving my scripting skills. So just pick some prototype that you might want to use. Try to make it relevant for the games that you want to make in the future. So for example, if you want to make like 3D games in the future, then make a 3D prototype. Don't make like a 2D prototype if you're going to make 3D games, and so on and so on. So that's awesome. Now you know what you should do to start today, when you should make your first prototype, like everything around this. But your first game should be your #1 priority right now. So it's very, very important that you don't just waste time making prototypes and experiments forever, and that you actually know when to start your first game. Because making your first game is going to be the thing that's going to learn you the most about game development. And it's also going to be the thing that gives you the most opportunities and actually grows your like career and takes this from being just a fun hobby to actually something that you can make money from. So releasing your first game is going to be very important. And I actually have a golden rule for this. This is going to be an entire module inside of Smartini, all focused about this. And that's that you should know roughly 80% of the things that you need to make in a game. And the reason why it's so high is because even though you think you might know 80%, you're probably not going to know 80% because there's going to be so many like unexpected things that comes with making your first game. So if you think you know roughly 80% of making your first game, I think that's the sweet spot where it's not going to be too hard for you to make it, but you're also going to learn new things throughout the way. So obviously don't make like a huge first game, make something that you can actually finish, something you know 100% you can finish, and just fully focus on actually completing it, because one finished game is so much better than like 10 unfinished projects. In this, you can use preferably the prototypes that you made from the previous step. You can use these prototypes in your game. This is going to be like the optimal scenario because it's going to save you much time, not only for your first game, but for your future games as well, because you can still use the same systems. But this is something I talk more about inside of Smartini. With that being said, that's everything I think you need to know about the indie development roadmap for now. If you want the entire process laid out step by step for you, as I said, then it's Smartini with the first link in the description. This is where I'll walk you through like everything so you know what to do every single day, and also like cover everything that like every mistake that you can possibly make. So since you watched this entire video, I think Smartini is going to be a really, really good fit for you. You can check it out with the first link in the description. I think you'll find it really interesting. Thank you so much for watching either way.